Hey, good morning. How you doing? This is Steve Sims, and that is
Henry Sims.
there. You go. You can see we practiced this. All right. So you are here with Clarity with Sims Media. There's been a lot of questions that have come to us about just different little things along the way through our Facebook groups and over our socials. So we thought we're going to put together a little live like this every week. Clarity with Sims Media. All you've got to do is get into an Entrepreneur's Advantage Facebook group, or even just contact us from where you're watching here and go, hey, what are your views on the new captures? What are your views on the new rules in Google? What are the new rules in Reels? You know, where should I be on social? How do I improve my? Any question you have, just reach out to us and we'll actually put it here within Clarity with Sims Media. To kick this off, as we very much focus within our organization on branding, we wanted to have this first one breaking down what is branding, what's the ROI, and why it's there. Henry, why are so many people confused with branding and instantly look at marketing and ignore the branding? Why do they do that? And what are the big mistakes for doing that?
I think one of the things that makes us overlook branding is how shiny and new marketing always is, because branding comes from a very foundational level in business, and marketing's constantly tweaking and changing. So most of the time, people, when they hear about new innovations in the way that business is done, a lot of it comes from the perspective of new ways of marketing. So a lot of the time, branding gets outshined by these new marketing methods and tools and snazzy things. And I think that's probably what draws a lot of our attention away from branding towards the marketing.
But why should they be looking at marketing as a number two?
Yeah. So it's number two because the branding needs to be first. It's the foundational element that your marketing sits on top of and excels from. Because if you're marketing and you don't yet define your brand and you don't put in the work to create that foundation for which your marketing sits on, then your messaging can't be clear enough to truly hit the person that you're trying to hit. And at the same time, you have to think about all the touch points that are involved in a customer journey now. Everyone is looking absolutely everywhere now in their research. So it's not just as simple as you click an ad, you go to the checkout page and you buy. What if they fall off the checkout page? What if they start looking elsewhere? What if they Google you? What if they look you up on social? What kind of opinions do they start to form of you there? And so you need to now think, what if someone falls out of my funnel and doesn't do what I want them to do with my nice marketing system? What's the research that they're going to be doing, and make sure that you're properly showing up. And you have that clarity that you're not confusing them when they do that back end research.
I think that's the key there, the clarity on who you are. You know, to show up, you've got to stand up. And a lot of people don't. They focus on these, you know, the ClickFunnels is great, you know, so I'm certainly not bashing that, but they focus on a few systems and they try to pay away their pain. They're like, well, I've got this system now. That's going to work. I haven't got to worry about anything else. And that's where they're wrong. If you don't have your brand solidified, you're marketing a bad message, a bad persona, a bad person. So let's focus on the myths of what a brand actually is. It isn't your logo, it isn't your service, and it isn't your product. It's your emotive trigger. It is the reaction that the person has when they come across you, good or bad. You know, if I sit here and I say, hey, Harley Davidson, Ford, Levi jeans, Gap, Trump, you know, any of these things create some kind of trigger in you. Nike, think of your favorite brands and they create some kind of euphoria in you. Think of Apple. Apple was a brand and a community before it was basically hardware. It focused on the community. It focused on the Genius Bar, the interaction. You looked a certain way. You hung out a certain way. You had a trigger towards why you would get Apple products, because for you to become cool, I had to have an Apple product. And so there was this trigger that went on. Is it the number one computer company in the world? No, it's number two and very, very healthy about it. But the bottom line of it is you've got to focus on today. What is the emotive trigger you are giving to those people, as you say, that have fallen off the rabbit hole that you've tried pushing them down, and now they've come through another way to find out who you are? And
Hmm.
are you showing up as the same person? No one ever has said, hey, you want to hear more about me? Yahoo me. You know, they just don't do it anymore. I got a grid the other day that was sent to me, and I can't be accurate on it, but it's well over 85% of our browsers are Google Chrome now. So
Hmm.
when it's very common to go, hey, you want to know about it, just Google it. And that's now become an adjective. It's become an action point.
Hmm.
So first question is, do you Google you? Now, a lot of people think, oh my God, I'm not that vain. If you're in business, be that vain. How
Yeah.
do you show up to people that don't know you? They're going to do that checking out. You see, here's the dumb thing. If I'm in a bar with someone, and it's been known to happen, and I say, hey, Henry Sims Media, oh my God, he's absolutely fat. You're going to take my word for it. You're going to be all smiles and chuckles and be like, I'm going to get hold of that guy. That's fantastic. And then you'll step outside, you'll pick up this little thing here, the phone, and then you will summon the details from the gods of Google on what they think of Henry. And if Henry's not paying attention, he's going to come up with his old MySpace page. Or worse, he's going to come up with social pages that have other people searched for. And now you're competing for the bloody eyeballs. So
Hmm.
your brand is an emotive trigger. You've got to focus on the experience you are creating in the communication with those people. How can people really focus on doing that?
Well, also, as well as the emotional trigger, it's the promise that they expect as well. It's the emotion and the promise that they think of when they come into your world. Because how do you make them feel? But also, what do they expect being involved with you? And that gets defined with the clarity of how you're showing up and what you're talking about and how you're positioning yourself. So that's a important element as well, is not just displaying yourself, but making sure that your messaging is clear, because it's also the promise. And when you're thinking of Apple, one of the one of the emotions is it's cool, it's fresh, all this stuff. But the promise is also that it's going to be super easy to use. Everything is simplistic. And that's one of the beauties that I love about Apple, because I know that I can just go and drag and drop stuff. But when I'm on a PC, I get lost over the interface. It's a lot harder for me to use. And for me, I just want the simplicity. So I know with Apple, with the AirDrop between all its devices, the promise is less headache and more simplicity to the way that I work and do my life. The emotion is the cool factor about it, and they do that through their marketing and branding and the people that they involve in their world. So the promise is also that other piece that's really important to your branding.
People overlook simplicity. And
Yeah.
when things are really, really simple, they've usually been heavily planned and engineered to be so. They say some of the simplest things are the hardest things to manufacture. So if you look at someone like Apple and the promise of simplicity and ease, you've got to stop complicating your message. Now, we always talk about kind of like, are you confusing your client? 9 times out of 10, you absolutely are, because you're trying to use too much language that you would never use. Think about it. If you're in again, we use the metaphor of the bar. If you're in a bar and you're talking to your buddy about what you do, are you using the copy to explain what you do that you put up on your website? Or has it been put up there by some kind of Harvard grad that's put up words in there that you can't even say, let alone spell? So you want to make sure that your message is simple. Hey, I clean drains. I repair your roof. I'm the #1 dentist in your area. I'll remove the pain out of that cavity. Keep your messaging really simple. A lot of people think if the message is too simple, you look stupid. But look at Apple. Is that
Mhm.
message not just like clinically simple? So why do people overcomplicate? Are they frightened of maybe looking a little bit silly on the internet?
Maybe it is just that factor of that you said, of appearing not as smart or complex as you really are. And they are concerned about that simplicity kind of devaluing how they really, the value that they really provide. But with the amount of noise out there on the internet right now, that simplicity is what cuts through it all. You want to make it very easy for people to understand what you're doing and how they can be involved with you, because we were actually talking about it recently over lunch, how frustrated we are with how to do business with certain companies. They make it so difficult through their process to figure out how to even sign up, because they're making you go through all these forms or go to this page and this page. And in the end, you're like, screw this, I'm going somewhere else, because it's just difficult to get involved. And so even at that point, when we wanted to get involved with something, we couldn't because we didn't know how. So we need to look at the simplicity of our messaging to make it so easy for people to understand what we do and how they can get involved. Otherwise, you're just adding to all the noise that's already out there. So the simplicity is really to your benefit. It doesn't make you look stupid. It is a relief to the people trying to find that solution. They love the confidence of knowing that, hey, you know what you're doing. You've simplified it. You can definitely help me as well.
I'm going to touch on temperature. Okay. As a speaker, any speaker in the planet knows that they get the temperature of the room before they give their presentation. I've seen so many speakers, I speak, and every single one of the people I know, we hang out in the room for about 30 minutes, excuse me, to even a couple of hours prior to our time on stage to get an idea of the temperature of the room. Are they angry? Are they hungry? Are they frustrated? How is the other people on stage massaging their emotions? So we get a feel, we get a temperature of the room, so that when we go onto the stage, if the room's all very kind of chirpy and happy and lively, then you can be a bit funnier. If they're very serious, you can be a bit more technique and tactical. So you always get a read on the temperature of the room. Today, people are ignoring the fact that the audience, the people that they're trying to attract in the planet today, what's their temperature? What are they being fed on a daily basis? Well, it's war in Ukraine, it's recession, it's depression, it's politics, it's doom and gloom. Do you not possibly think that therefore the people that are reading your advert today may be a little bit more suppressed than they were in the heyday, should we say, whenever that was? When people are happier and the money's flowing in, they're a little bit easier. Yeah, I'll take a chance on this course or this point. Yeah, I'll take. But when we are a little bit more aggravated and our tolerance level is lower, we don't put up with confusion. We want to know what you're trying to, come on, what are you trying to say? Spit it out. You have this kind of attitude. That's the temperature of the planet now. We don't want to go through 5 pages and hit number 1 to speak to so-and-so, hit number 2 for a new client, hit number 3 but we don't want, because we don't have the tolerance level anymore. Simplicity is king, okay? Clarity is what you should be focusing on every single time. It's not stupid to look simple. It's refreshing, and people want that. What we want to do is we want to stop our prospects having to think, are we the right solution? We want to lay it out. Hey, I'm the solution to your problems, and you can lose that problem by clicking this button. That's simplicity. Understand the temperature of the audience you're trying to gravitate towards, and then speak to them in a simple, concise, clear manner to make it easier for them to make a decision. So give us a couple of examples of really good branding companies.
Well, we'd already touched on Nike and Apple, just because you do understand the culture. And I actually really like Nike as well, because they do a great job. Apple do too, but Nike has really, I think, led the way in it, pulling in faces and people and making it community oriented and creating this culture around what they do and what they stand for. And all the marketing that you see for them, there's always some kind of purpose and they're not necessarily charity, but they're standing for something in all of their marketing. They're standing up
Yeah.
for a group, they're standing up towards a problem in the world. They're always showing support to different areas of the world and different groups of people to pull everyone together into this common mission of just do it. And they do a great job of that because a lot of businesses lose that personal element. And now that is one of the biggest parts of branding is creating this personal connection. So they do a great job of doing that because as people, we like dealing with people. So if we don't get to see other people and interact with other people and it's just chatbots and opt-in pages and all this stuff, then there's not much of a connection and it's harder to get us to buy into that. So when there's actually people involved and there's these points that someone's standing for, then we have a much easier time resonating with it and connecting to it. And then obviously doing business with those companies. So I really like Nike for the way that they bring in people and they display what they stand up for to bring everyone into their culture. And they're very clear on their branding of just do it and we're here all together. But they do a great job of creating and strengthening everyone that they pull into their community. So I really like Nike for that.
I think there's an old saying that should be left in the past. It's the simple one, kind of like, it's not personal, it's business.
Yeah.
Now that was the classic line that couldn't be more inaccurate today than ever. Today, business is personal. And you've just said that one of the largest organizations in the planet, Nike, has made a focus on becoming a community and personable. You don't know who's running the thing, you don't know who's behind it, but it's got a persona, and it tells you, okay, that's standing up for that. Hey, I want to stand up. Now, do you believe by them actually standing behind athletes and causes and sexuality and transgender and all the causes that they've been prominent in standing behind, do you think that they are losing clients?
Probably when
Do you
you're
think
when
they
you're
care?
that no, but that's
why?
because they're attracting who they want to attract and
That's right.
rejecting the other ones very well. So if your message is so clear that it's angering certain people and attracting others, then it's great. Because as you've said before, it's the fence sitters that you don't want. You don't want the people
Yeah.
who are like, I don't know. And you want to have it easy, especially in the world that we're going into, which I'll touch on. We want to make sure that whatever you put out there, it resonates strong with a particular group of people that you want to work with, and then it rejects those that you don't want to work with. And one of the reasons being for that, and why I say in the time that we're in right now, is I think we've had this transition period that we're kind of towards the end of right now. Early, I would say probably 10 plus years ago, branding was more prominent. People did pay more attention to branding then. But in the recent years, marketing has given us so much data that it's been this shortcut. It's been a bit of a cheat code in the world of business because we've had so much third-party data that we can just grab and use and hit and target people, different buttons we can push to get ads to people at a certain time. And because of that short, quick ROI that we've been able to utilize, I think a lot of people have just kind of like dumped the thought of branding and just gone with that and use their targeting and all this data that they've got available to them to do the heavy lifting for them. So they make a video, maybe their messaging isn't that great, their branding isn't very clear, but because of the targeting and the timing and everything, they're kind of able to make it work. But all of that targeting and data available to us has already been declining. Different targeting options have been going away. Different data captures have been restricted. Certain third-party data is a lot less to us now. So if we can't make our ads work as well as we could before, or not as easily, not as much of a cheat code, then we need to focus on the messaging that we put in our content to do the targeting for us. And that's where branding is now becoming more important than ever, because we were lazy in these previous years of where targeting and data was so awesome and just a cheat code to business. Now we need to realize that branding needs to be focused on heavily, because that's the way that we're going to target our customers, but also at the same time, stand out against everyone else. Because if everyone was relying on their targeting and they didn't have any kind of brand emotion and promise to what they do, they're just going to look like everyone else. If you pay attention to your messaging and make that super clear so that there's no fence sitters, then the ad targeting isn't going to matter as much. It'll do the targeting for you when you put that out there.
Yeah, it's a case of, we said this right at the beginning. For you to stand out, you've got to stand up, and you've got to stand for something in doing so. You've got to be the personality that someone can resonate to. And you touched on that subject on the fence sitters. One of my conversations before, just to explain that a little bit more, is there's three kinds of people in the planet, and one of them's your fault. There are those people that just love you regardless. Okay? They see you, they relate to you, everything's great. We know full well, and you know this, there are people that are heavily alienated by me. Okay? There are people that are probably alienated by you. And that's fine. There are those people that love you. There are those people that hate you. And both of those people are absolutely fine. It's those people that are in the middle. It's those fence sitters that are sitting there going, I'm not sure what he means. I'm not sure what he's trying to get at. If your message is so unclear that you are actually breeding fence sitters, then it's your problem. Stand up, stand out like Nike. Hey, I stand for this. And if those fence sitters go, well, screw you, I don't like you, good, be gone, because other people will take that place. So try and be clear and try and make it very, very easy for someone to make a decision on whether or not they want to relate to you. We've only got a couple of minutes left. As I've said, folks, we're going to do these every week. We get loads of questions come into us. So if you've got a question, thanks for the comments that we're seeing here. If you've got a question you'd like to touch on us, the new rules around pixelation, Reels versus TikTok versus Shorts, whatever it is, the whole world of podcasts, whatever it is in the world of media, send us a message and we'll use that for the topic for the following one. We're going to be doing these pretty much every week, Wednesday around about the same time. Is that right, Henry?
Yep.
And as usual, if you want to grab out to us, then you can always do that by reaching out to sims.media and booking a cloudy call on there and actually chatting with one of us. But what would you like to finish off with?
I would like to just drive that point home that we have been in this transition where so many businesses have come onto the market with how many tools have been available to them, and branding has been neglected due to that. So now really is the time that honestly, it's getting to the point where like you should have been doing your branding already, but at least start it now before it's just the definite change of the landscape where you have to have been doing it already, because you want that background, that foundation for people to fall on and see you and understand where they can get more info on you. And so that takes a little bit of time to build up. So if you're not focusing on it now, it's going to be too late when all these fancy tools really decline.
It's the classic, I think, Japanese proverb that when's the best time to plant an oak tree, 100 years ago or today? So, yeah, we've got to do that. And Henry's right there. Don't wash over his statement. The rules of engagement are changing. And they're going to be changing, and you're going to be out in the desert and you're not going to know what to do because your pixels aren't working and your tracking's not working and your retargeting's not working. And when all of that's gone, what are you left with? You're left with what you stand for. And you've got to make sure that that is clear as to what that is now. Henry, thank you very much for doing this. You're looking good, but you're my son, so I'm slightly biased. Again, if anyone wants to reach out to us, sims.media, and we look forward to speaking with you again soon. Thanks very much for joining. If there's anyone else out there in the planet that needs advice on this, then just tell them to tune in. We're going to do these regular, and we're not charging you. They are there for you because we want people communicating better We want to help produce a world that we want to live in. So again, thanks a lot for putting up with us, and we'll speak with you again. Bye.